in prison no longer.
As he breaks the punetta, Adam's getting fed up. He's shouting, God damn it, Declawed. But his puns all get better, the women get wetter, and all he can do is applaud King Declawed. Gonna proc it now, gonna proc it now, by Jackson Aurelia, Jackson Aurelia, gonna proc it now, gonna proc it now, proc it, Jackson Aurelia, T-Force. Welcome to the rework of the T-Force, now we going hard, cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and cash from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like Brand, practicing his dot game, give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time, now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now, fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call, can a podcast really be all that? Of course, how do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force podcast, episode number 190. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I am your host for this evening. Everybody, Declawed is not with us tonight. We are very sad, but very, very, very happy for him, as Syndra has finally broke free.
Yeah, Syndra released herself from her prison.
Yes, she's in prison no longer.
Yeah.
So Syndra has joined us in this world. Declawed's young woman,
baby daughter.
girl, baby daughter. There we go. Thank you.
Girl spawn.
Girl Spawn has now joined us in this world, so Declawed now has a beautiful baby girl, and he is not joining the podcast tonight because he is with his wife in the hospital as she works through, the end of the pregnancy.
I will say, though, now that the baby's been born, he can start drinking again.
He can start drinking again. And he is going to be like a cheap, easy drunk going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So like me.
Yeah.
Just cheap and easy, not a cheap, easy drunk.
Well, you're also a drunk.
Oh, well, let's not talk about that right now. So everybody, please tweet at Declawed. That's DECLAWD. He has the new baby girl in the world. We all are very, very happy for him, and congratulations, Claude, on your new baby girl. I've said it 100 times, and now we're going to move on to the next one. Chiro's with me tonight.
Hi.
And Dominic, I am like completely and totally out of it. I almost said Sean. I just need to quit podcasting. That's all it is. Just I'm done. This is my retirement show. Everybody enjoy the Sean and Shrody job.
We made it to 190, guys.
Yep.
We're so close to 200. Nobody thought we'd make it to 100. This is the end.
Yeah, so moving on. Guys, don't forget to go check out our sponsor at the Nature Box. You can go to tinyurl.com/tforcenature or bit.ly/tforcenature for $20 a month. You get 5 of your favorite healthy snack foods that Chira Jaden loves. And you can just get it. You get it at your doorstep every single month. You can help us out. You help the podcast out. We get to pay for new equipment. We get to talk about how much we love healthy food, and Chira gets to continue to grow in that awesome beard. So if you don't order Nature Box, you cannot have that great of a beard.
No, it just starts like shooting out of your face as soon as you start eating. Unless you're a girl, that doesn't happen at all. So.
It might. Put some hair on your chest.
I have plenty of that too.
But if you want to see Chira Jaden's beard, go to youtube.com/T-Force podcast. You'll be able to see it.
You forgot the URL.
No. I was watching Chira. He was making a face. I made
a face. I had to show off.
The stutter made me think that you forgot what you were going to say. And it was like, oh, shoot, I'm on a show tonight, guys. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's youtube.com/T-Force podcast. Go check that out. You can check out the video every week. Do know that we are live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And on September 8th, we are going to have a special giveaway on Twitch. And it's going to be for only Twitch. You'll be able to find actually giveaways if you follow us on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. That's going to be starting up here in the next week. But if you want a very special giveaway, join us on September 8th. We'll talk to you about it again. Last piece of news before we move into patch 4.15 discussion. I'm a mess tonight, guys.
Yeah.
I can tell.
A hot ass mess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where's Declawed for the puns so we can, at least have some time to think about what we're going to say next? Jeez.
If you are going to join us for the Columbus party, the World's party, which is not watching Worlds, just hanging out and talking. We are doing that at the Elevator Brewing Company. The day of Worlds. I don't know the date. What's that? October 19th? Is that what it is?
Something like that. Yeah. Sometime in
October 18th, right? It's a Saturday, so it's October 18th. Quickly, somebody help me with this before I can completely flounder and die in this entire podcast.
I'm not looking it up. I'm talking to fans.
I mean, the 18th is a Saturday, the 11th is a Saturday. I don't know which one it's on. God, we are just the best at this.
Well, you got to stop advertising things you don't know anything about, Adam.
Yeah, that's true. That is a very, very big piece of this.
I'm going to find the damn date. It's October 19th in Korea, meaning it'd be October 18th in the States.
Okay.
Yeah. So on October, right? That's right. It'd be October 18th in the States.
Dude,
Depends
I don't
on
know
what
what the date is in Korea.
They're ahead of us. They're ahead of us. So it'd be the 19th.
Right, but if it's like 6 o'clock at night in Korea, it'll probably be closer to 6 a.m. or some shit like that.
Oh my god! I told everybody I have it on this episode, and I don't know fucking time zones. I'm just going to assume that it's October 18th at Elevator Brewing Company
guys.
in Columbus, Ohio. October
We'll
18th. Shut up! October 18th, Elevator Brewing Company, Columbus, Ohio, 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're all going to go there. We're going to have drinks. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk, and we're going to enjoy League of Legends discussion with everybody. Dom is going to try to be there. He might not actually make it because he's been moving, but Sean will be there. I'll be there. Wrecker will be there. Punch and Ert will be there. Riley he's our social media manager, will be there. Mitch from the LCS Rundown will be there. And Brock, who is the producer for the LCS Rundown, will also be there. So you got like 8 guys to talk to all from the Trinity Force. We're all going to sit down, drink beer, and have a lot of fun.
And I'm sure we'll have the real information out sometime in the future.
It's not a viewing party, Twitch. It's not a viewing party. We cannot view this together because it happens at like 4 a.m., okay? Anyway, so that entire shit show of an intro brought to you by NatureBox. Let's move on to patch 4.1.
We did. Good. That's great.
That's a resounding, advocation for their product.
Hey, we didn't say that their food would make you any smarter. We just said it'll make you feel healthier, and it is healthier.
It's just better for you than the food you're eating now.
Yep. Unless you're me and eating watermelon.
All right, so we are going to talk about patch 4.15 as that hit today, Wednesday. Today we're doing the podcast live. We're going to talk about all the little pieces of it. This might be a shorter episode, but stick with us as we power through it.
Everything is new and different. Everything. Right. It's all different.
First of all, patcher and landing page have been completely and totally updated, and I have to say, I like it a lot. I like it more than I hate it. Like, I'm 95% in love with the way it looks because it's new and modern, and it's better than it has been, and we're going to get rid of Pando Media Booster soon. What I don't like is if you go and join the in-game chat channel, T-Force, or any in-game chat channel, the box is so small that you cannot keep up with the conversation.
That is teeny.
I've heard a lot of complaints about that, actually.
How do I make this bigger?
You don't. You can't. It's impossible.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's a strong oversight. But other than that, I really like it. I really like the new feature that you can filter the friends list very easily with the search box, so I can try to find if somebody's online. If you have a ton of friends in your chat list, it's very hard to find people, especially even if you make categories. I don't know about you guys, but I have like 15 categories, and it's really hard for me to scroll through. Where's Gut Rotten at?
I have everybody on the same list. It's the hardest thing to look at ever.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. I have mine all nice and wonderfully sorted and everything. It's still usually difficult to find what I'm looking for, so yeah.
So being able to search for that, being able to bring in people, they brought this in before the patch, but being able to bring people into your games that you really liked playing with or you play with very often when you go to make a custom lobby, like a giraffe lobby or whatever it may be. You know how a patch ago or whatever, you can click and you can add people. I really like the little small updates they're doing to the launcher. It's well overdue.
And it's definitely, it definitely looks way better than it did.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it was made in 2014 as opposed to 2007 or whenever the hell they were actually working on that part of it.
You got that right. So now that we've talked about the new landing page, we want to get into what everybody else really cares about, and that's Alistar finally eating the nerf that he deserves. And I'm going to call out Dom for this one. Because
that poor champion. I mean, like, I love Alistar. Everybody knows it. I have criticized, or I have listed his laundry list of faults and everything, or why he's bad, or for this, that, and the other thing, but it doesn't stop me from loving and playing the champion and succeeding despite all that type of stuff. Alistar finally gets a little love, and to nobody's surprise, he becomes a terror again. That's just really the problem with the champion. There is so much raw power in his kit that they have to really just tone everything down to stop him from being ban status. And that's really what happens. If he gets a little bit of power, he goes straight to ban status, and we saw that most recently. And he just found a new home in top lane, as opposed to the support or jungle where we saw him previously. Oh, and mid lane until they toned down his AP ratios, which are still good.
But see, I think if they would have made the changes they made to him previously in patch 4.14, that if we would have saw those back in like patch 4.08, or whatever it was, when we were seeing a lot of Mundo and Shyvana and whatnot in the top lane, that he wouldn't have seen as much play. He wouldn't have ever seen play in the top lane. He would have seen play in the bottom lane as a support, and those changes would have worked into his favor.
I don't think so. I don't think those were meaningful enough to really make him a always play support champion. Part of the reason that part of it really is just the way the meta shifted. It happened, like his buffs happened to come at a time where, oh, wait a minute, having a champion who gets really tanky and has tons of crowd control in top lane, not to mention could deal 900 damage in one basic spell combo. Like that just happened to be really good timing with the meta starting to shift towards champions like, Maokai, Gragas, that type of thing.
Right, but my point is that he wouldn't have seen like a huge resurgence like he has at this point, but he would have maybe been picked up a couple more times in the bottom lane as a support. Yeah, because those mana changes would have allowed him to be played against the big bruisers like Thresh and Leona that we saw back in those patches, because he could still build a relic shield. The changes that we saw, one were for defensive masteries, which started to remove those big immovable tanks with no CC, and then we saw the changes to relic shield, and we also saw the changes to support items that would allow for the APs to come into play, and we saw less Leona because of that. And I think during that period, I don't know what exactly patch that was, but if he would have given him those buffs at that time, he wouldn't have seen the play, but the meta would have eventually shifted in his favor to be top lane, just because the way the meta shifted, and people would have gone, okay, well, maybe I can start playing Alistar up here because I've seen his power in the bottom lane. Like, I think he would have seen more even play.
It's tough to say. I think you might have seen Xpecial pick him back up, and so it would have been Xpecial and Afromu playing him again, and maybe like Edward in Europe, and who knows, Mad Life would have brought him back out or something. I don't know. Otherwise, like, not a lot of people were playing Alistar. And part of it is that he's, like, aside from the people at the highest level, he's a very difficult champion to learn. I don't know how many people I played with who were like, oh, I'm going to play Alistar, and thought they were going to pull the kind of bullshit that Alistar mains know how to pull, and they just utterly, they hotshot GG'd it. I mean, that's really what it came down. They just couldn't figure out how to do everything. They would try to do stuff like flash in front of the opponents to headbutt somebody back, basically insec on Alistar, and they couldn't do it because they didn't understand his ranges, they didn't understand the targeting and everything like that. It's not like, Alistar is a difficult champion to play well. So I don't know that mid-season like that, a lot of people would have been really itching to bring Alistar back out. I could be wrong, but the top lane shift, made it a totally different story. I mean, and he was 100% banned over the weekend.
Yep. Right. Well, I guess we didn't talk about his change. His W, he can no longer get a free auto attack off after he Ws.
Which is why he was getting like 900 damage, because you were getting a Trinity Force on him, and his base AD is amazing. And then you're also getting a Static Shiv, the Emperor Palpatine build that DeClaude liked to talk about. And so you would go flying at this person, and you would do your combo. And so in addition to the combo damage, you would get a Lightning proc and a Sheen proc, and that's where all of this absurd damage was coming from. And so this actually is a really, really big, I mean, it's a bug fix is really what it is.
Right. And it's going to definitely hurt his trade potential.
Yeah. I mean, it dramatically.
Yeah.
His trade potential.
I just think it's funny that they changed this on Alistar, and I understand why they're not doing this, but they haven't changed it on Singed, because Singed can still flip and auto attack somebody in midair.
Auto attack.
But that's because Singed isn't building the same type of item. Singed doesn't have the built-in steroids. He doesn't have the built-in CC, the heals.
Well, he does kind of have the built-in steroids, but he doesn't.
Well, it's not.
They're just different steroids.
Yeah, because he gains life back. Really, he gains life back rather than suddenly taking 70% less damage from all sources.
Yeah. but he gains the life back over a longer duration. You know, like he's harder to kill for a longer time.
Sure. But having that CC, I can see why they're not touching Singe, but it's funny that you can still do it with Singe, and they're not just bug fixing it across the board with anybody who has a displacement and an attack.
It's the type of thing where as long as the champion is not, like, as long as it's not so abusive that the champion basically gets put into ban prison across all play levels, they're not going to address it.
Sure. I can understand that. But I think you understand my point. Where,
like, I think they've said, like, Talon has some really obscene abuse cases, but because Talon gets a very low level of play, they're content to just leave him alone. Like, there are just certain things that they don't want to punish the people who are...
Faker and somebody else played him today in the OGN finals. I can't remember the mid laner name. I don't follow Korea all that well, and I'm letting down my Monte Cristo brethren.
It's a case where they're not going to punish the people who are, like, kind of dedicated to the champions just because there are abuse cases that infrequently appear in games. It's when they have a high probability of showing up that they have to take action against these types of things. This is what's going to happen with Alistar until they rework the champion. And they have long talked about reworking him, trying to decide what they want to do. One of the big things they keep saying is that if they do ever rework him, they will remove the mini Malphite ult that he can pull off right now. That was never intended. It was something they decided they were okay with. They were kind of okay with the players figuring it out. It's difficult enough to pull off that it ends up just being more rewarding for the players that can do it. Then, like, it's sort of a skill indicator. It's also not the ideal use case of his abilities, so there is a trade-off that you're making there. Just a lot of different things.
I was about to say, there's a lot of people that do the WQ combo just to do it rather than actually do it because they have a reason behind doing it.
It's funny. Once you learn how to do it, then you get really excited and you always want to do it. But then it becomes a habit, and it, like, you do it without thinking about it, and that's when you have to start thinking about how you want to use your abilities again.
See, I know how to do it, and I find myself trying to position myself to walk up and Q them first and not do the combo, because you get more mileage out of just being able to flash Q, pulverize back, because, you know, you have to walk the longer distance. So
for me, it was definitely a case where I learned how to do the combo, and then I always did the combo because at the time it was just practicing to get it really get it down. And then before long, I was just doing it without thinking about it, and that meant I was using the combo without actually thinking about my abilities. And it was when I stepped back and realized, like, no, that's not always the best way to do things. You really have to consider them two separate abilities instead of one. That's kind of, I mean, that was the next step for me. I mean, that's when you start pulling bullshit on Alistar because they don't know what you're going to do.
Right. They don't know how you're going to engage or what you're going to do. See, I just like to walk at people and then Q. Like, a lot of people, they kind of will stand there like, oh, he's going to W me. Suddenly he's standing on top of me because he just continued to walk. Like, it's one of those we talked about last week where you have to go against what people think you're going to do. Sometimes it's just standing in place, and sometimes it's just walking at them. And you can... Go ahead.
It's fun using Headbutt to get yourself out of trouble, like if minions happen to be within range, and you can use that to just get out of jail. He's a fun champion, and like when they do rework him, I think there's so much going on in his kit that they need to. And it's sort of like Master Yi, really. There were so many different things going on, and it just didn't, like, it was difficult to figure out how to play him. When they rework him, they're going to have to address a lot of issues. I really hope they get rid of the heal. I think just thematically, it doesn't make sense for the champion. It's a confused, like it's a confusing ability because people think they should be leveling it up because it's a heal, and the other ones are just crowd control. And you know, if you're support Alistar, you're not really dealing damage. Except then you're going to drain the hell out of your mana pool, and like by leveling that ability up, you're basically losing, you're like forfeiting your lane.
See, I think it's that and the passive that needs to get removed.
Yeah.
Or reworked. I wouldn't mind if they made trample so you could walk through minions, or you could walk on top of minions.
I think you can.
Well, I mean, just that ability, not doing damage, like something with on top of that.
Right.
I don't mind the damage part of it, and part of it's because you can deal damage to turrets.
Right.
Because of it. But I mean, it is a.
It makes thematically it makes sense.
It was reworked during Season 1. His old passive used to be bonus damage to turrets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
which
it was
is only effective for a window.
Yeah, I mean, well, it'd be more effective with the new champion that's coming out humorously, but he was reworked at a time when the meta as it is now didn't even exist. Like, it was just starting to form. And that's when they reworked his passive and kind of everything that the champion did. And it's just like sooner or later they're going to have to say it's time to give this champion some attention and really figure out what they want him to do. I hope they take a look at his lore. His lore is just comically bad. It's out there, and this isn't a shot at anybody. I mean, like, the game was so different when Alistar was created, when the lore was written and everything, and they have so much, like, they have so much better vision now of what they want to do with things, and Alistar is just the type of champion that needs some love. I would love to see Alistar have, like, a weird relationship with Twitch and have sort of like a Groot and Rocket Raccoon type of thing going on. Oh, we're not going to.
Or you could just do that with Maokai. Fuck it. Let's just go super cheesy on that one.
I don't know. I don't care enough about the lore. I think it's fun to read. I don't really have any comments on it, but
it's definitely dated, especially since they've been retconning like the Nasus Renekton stuff and making it Shurima based. I hope they make some changes to the Alistar lore in the future.
I do like what they're doing. I like that there's more events coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Shurima event around the new champion as well, and seeing some other reworked lore with that. Or, in the future.
It's going to be similar to the Freljord event, probably.
I think they'd be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
That
would be awesome.
Bring another Shurima thing in where you can pick your icon, and if you stay long enough, you get the icon. That type of thing. I like those little interactions in League.
I mean, I've long wished they would do more of that type of stuff. So I rant about it on Twitter like every 4 months. Well,
really, I think it's at a good point right now where they're picking factions and they're releasing champions for those factions or working in the lore for specific pieces of the factions, and that allows them to bring out more. Like Braum is a kind of a Freljord champion, or at least the platform was laid down so Braum could be brought out with, his lore made sense because he was living in the Freljord.
Right.
And now what the Freljord is and, all the background for it. So he makes sense thematically when it goes to that, because he doesn't have to be against not Syndra, Lysandra. He doesn't have to be a rival to any of those. He just has to be living in the same zone, and you understand how that zone works. So that's why we want to see them going forward with the Shurima stuff. But I also think it's spread out just enough so that we're not getting too much of it, and we're always like, we want more, and that's a good place to be in any video game. Is we just want more. Give it to us just enough times a year that we are satisfied with what we get, and that we're not feel like we are, that they're overbearing.
They're closing in on opportunities to do stuff outside of the game with the lore. I mean, like, outside of big game events. And it would be really cool if they started hitting other media outlets and everything to just really, or media platforms, I should say, to achieve those ends. Listeners have asked us, and we've had this type of conversation before, so it's...
I know we're kind of getting off track here of the patch 4.15 bug fixes, so I'm going to go ahead and
Alistar, man! Apparently I keep making Alistar puns. I'm not aware of it.
You said utterly before.
Oh.
All right. Well, Fiddlesticks, he got bugs. He got fixes, really, to make his drain more reliable. His drain tether range is now 800 rather than 750, and his drain now updates every 0.25 seconds from 0.5 seconds. Sean, you are a Fiddlesticks man.
It's a fiddle fix. So now he gets an extra tick of his W. That's great. That's a quality of life change, if anything. So.
Well, quality of life, and with updating every 0.25 seconds from 0.5, that means you gain a little bit more. You're gaining the same amount of life, but you gain life more quickly,
right?
Making it harder for you to damage through it.
Right, that is correct. The total damage again remains unchanged, so that's not going to be that big. He's going to have a slightly larger amount of survivability for people that might be able to burst him down.
What about jungle survivability as well? Wouldn't that help just a little bit in the early stage? Like, it's not going to be a giant noticeable buff, but
it'll help him out earlier more than anything. So that's a nice change. Again, this is a quality of life thing. If anything, it does.
I don't think it elevates Fiddlesticks to pick always.
Oh no, he's too vulnerable to early invades or any kind of invades almost the entire game, which makes him very hard to play.
Well, and if he's had this issue for a while, like I bet it's barely noticeable when you actually get in the game, except for maybe the slight extra amount of range that you're still draining people and getting health from. So, well,
50
we'll
range
see how
is quite a bit. I think.
Yes, that is. especially on.
That'll make or break a gank.
Yeah, definitely. Or if you're gonna fuck around and play him in a lane like I do half the time, it's gonna give you some slight extra kill potential when somebody's running away with an ignite on them.
So they're just really nice buffs to allow people who are playing him to continue playing him, to people that want to pick him up to make it easier to play him if you get picked up, but it doesn't break the champion and put him into ban prison or pick prison. So I like these changes. I think Riot's going to this right step with Fiddlesticks,
and it's a slight change. So that's good. I'd rather see small little changes over time than anything too major that might upset the balance of the.
We say that, and then we move into Gnar, who got a whole bunch of changes in his kit to try to make up for people who were complaining about how little damage he does.
Right.
Well, I mean, even just reading the description on it, even if he was really strong, like even if he actually is really strong, people just haven't figured out how to play him, they would kind of be making these changes anyway to keep up with the spirit of the champion because they felt like they missed the mark. And so if he ends up if because of these changes he ends up being overtuned, they'll dial him back in other areas. But it sounds like these are here to stay, irrespective of everything else.
Base health regen from 3 per 5 to 5 per 5. Boomerang toss, the outgoing width has been increased to 60. The return width has been increased to 75. The minimum speed has been increased, so it goes out and back to you more quickly at 1400. Or I guess I should say out. That's not back to you.
That's big because that was a huge lot of the Gnar players and the. I guess the feel of the boomerang once you tossed it, it just didn't feel good to use. So
I wonder if that has anything to do with Sivir's boomerang blade. Like everybody expected it to feel more like that, and it just was slow by comparison or something.
Well, I mean, Sivir's boomerang blade's really quick, and if you get it on the very end of it, I mean, you get a huge chunk of damage, and it's, that's definitely noticeable. And if this didn't turn out that way, I can see why people are definitely upset.
If you watch like the video with the pros complaining about how Q moved and how far it went or how it stopped, it makes sense to increase the range on it because that's really his only big ability besides his auto attacks when he's in mini Gnar. And you need to have some kind of advantage because at some point you're going to be at a disadvantage in lane when you swap over to Mega Gnar. Now, that could be argued that you have an advantage there as you can go all in, but at the same time, how do you CS when you're Mega Gnar?
Right.
Effectively. Because suddenly you have to use your abilities which have AoE damage and yada yada. So it's hard to push the lane. Q boulder toss in Mega Gnar now has a boulder speed of 2100, which is actually a very nice change. So is the boulder width from 80 to 90. Good for Gnar. Gnar can now pick up his boulders off of the ground after 0.3 seconds. All these quality of life buffs for him because, as others have complained, if you miss the Q as Mega Gnar, you're fucked. Pretty much. You have no way to get it. You have no way to slow somebody. You have no way to stick on them.
This makes the ability much more responsive when you use it. So you'll definitely notice that after you cast it, it'll get to where its intended location is much, much faster, which should make a pretty big difference.
I would think somebody
forms.
who's enraged and picking up boulders should be able to throw them very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how they went with the lore and whatnot about he's, Rengar, who's a giant goddamn cat, is kind of a monster. Especially after the video and we got to see him tear people apart, and then you have a giant beast that's supposed to scare Rengar a bit. You would think that he'd be able to chuck something extremely fast.
You'd be able to pick up a giant boulder and chuck it at the cat.
Like it wasn't even a problem.
Yeah, I like how these little buffs. And Gnar, so his ultimate now scales with AP is at a 0.5 AP ratio, and now Gnar now moves and performs actions after casting Gnar in 0.4 seconds rather than 0.5 seconds. They're all just like little, like you said, responsive buffs to make him easier and more responsive.
Make him feel a little bit better when you play him.
Right. And you'd be surprised by how much 0.1 or 0.2 makes a difference when you are playing on lag. I would say the majority of the players have, somewhere between 80 and 100 MS. Mm-hmm. Anything, Dom? Anything to add about Gnar and how he's been
Not
playing?
really. I haven't played much of him. I have seen him I've seen him only a handful of times. Most of the games I've seen him in were because people I was playing with wanted to try him for reasons. So I don't have anything to add right there. I still think he's adorable. I still think his hop is the most fun ability in the game. So
right. They fixed a bunch of champions where if they gave fixed the bug where abilities that gave true sight of an enemy champion reveal stealth wards under certain.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's definitely been an issue.
For this one, they fixed Lee Sin, Caitlyn, and Twisted Fate. I'm curious to know if like Nidalee never had that power, or
well, she probably did, but they changed how she works, so she doesn't get true sight anymore.
Yeah. And then,
well, I guess she does. Her W gives true sight.
Yeah, her W gives true sight.
But they probably fixed it. And there's never. They fixed it with the update. They never said anything about it.
It's possible.
Yeah. And then Rumble. I'm curious if these bugs on Rumble. I don't play Rumble enough to understand, but Sean may be able to say something. They just fixed bugs where he wasn't able to auto attack as quickly as he should after overheat expired. They were all overheat expiration fixes.
I've played a lot of Rumble, and I really haven't noticed any of that. Maybe these were things that kind of showed up after they implemented the Super Galaxy Rumble skin, because I haven't played too much Rumble since then. But
to a degree, I am taking Claude's spot. Taking to Claude's spot, and I don't even realize it.
Haha, flame spitters, degrees.
Yeah. Part of it is that it's really difficult to tell when you're getting extra damage from being overheated. Like, that is the mark of a good Rumble player, is somebody who understands that. But because you haven't played a lot of Rumble, Adam, you didn't notice it. Were you ever like a full-time Rumble 75% of the games played type of player, Sean?
I played a lot of Rumble during, it was either the end of last season or the beginning of this season. I got really into him because he was just a ton of fun to play, and he had such a huge like power spike at 6 for dragon fights. But again, most of my Rumble experience comes from the end of last season and earlier this season. So if something were to happen to him during the middle of the season, I wouldn't have noticed it as much. If it's a responsiveness thing with his auto attacks, that would be huge, since a lot of his early damage and a lot of his trade potential.
All the changes are coming out of overheat.
Okay.
Or being in the danger zone. Like, one, fixed a bug where Rumble wouldn't fade out when he entered a brush during overheat. Fixed a bug where Rumble would occasionally not receive bonus magic damage in his first basic attack during overheat. Fixed a bug where Rumble's basic attacks would cancel if he was in the middle of attacking while overheat expired.
Okay,
so it's all just overheat bugs.
This is a lot of little changes that actually have the potential to add up to like a big trade potential change for the first hit when you overheat, or as soon as you overheat.
Well, it makes the Rumble mains that expected these pieces to happen, that now they happen, and now you can
they're going to be better
for
for it. Yeah, they're going to be better for it.
These are the types of changes that actually could push a champion back into relevance, we're going to say, because Rumble has just fallen out of favor compared to last season.
Like with Rumble, unfortunately, the meta is
there are meta things, Rumble. But even so, like, he's still a champion that could get played more. But if there are a lot of things that just felt wrong about the champion, like it felt like he wasn't working the way he was supposed to, and these changes basically fix that.
Right.
Now all of a sudden this could be the type of thing that sort of pushes him back into relevance.
This is another early/mid-season change that should have happened when we saw a couple Rumbles, Balls, and Dyrus were playing. But actually, really last season when we saw them trying to play the champion. If these would have been fixed during that time, I bet we would have seen more players trying to play Rumble. Niantosh, right?
Well,
Niantosh. Mega Zero played Rumble quite a bit.
The funny thing is that Rumble was just never really caught on in North America, and Europe loved him. Europe loved playing Rumble for the longest time, and North America just never really got hip to him. And so even when he was really strong, it was like the two regions just sort of flocked to the champion flocked or ran away from the champion, as they were prone to doing.
Well, yeah, he's such a
It was sort of like
champion.
Varus. It's sort of like how Europe took to Varus and North America took to Draven.
Yeah, we saw that with Lissandra as well. Europe took the Lissandra, and we never saw it come out of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny how certain regions like take to specific champions, and other ones, and everyone else just ignores them. Except Korea. Korea will play whatever is really strong.
I just thought it was funny today. I think Monte Cristo. It was the first game of the Samsung versus SKT this morning. Spoiler alert. Sorry. Fast forward 2 minutes, but Rengar just went on a complete and total tear. It was 11,000 gold lead at like 10 minutes or something. It was just not 11. But you get it. It was like just like 6,000 gold lead. It was like a crazy gold lead because of Rengar. Monte Cristo tweeted that you guys better, NA better find another bug with Rengar for Worlds or you're going to get wrecked, was basically what his tweet said. That's paraphrasing. So I just thought that was really funny.
I liked. I did like how people wanted to find a Rengar bug so that North America couldn't play him because they were all like every time Rengar got in North America, the team lost.
The best part about that is if you've been following any of that on Reddit, whenever somebody finds something and then like a Redditor or not a Redditor, a Rioter will pop in and like say, yeah, that's not ban worthy, or like it's entertaining to watch to see how desperate people are to get
their favorite teams to not play.
Yeah, Rengar banned from being played, and then there's some people that like take that as a parody and try to find.
That's because we don't want another case where Rengar is zoning the opponent team in the opponent team's base.
I kind of wish this was the LCS rundown so I could complain right now because he just brought up a really good point about fans and talking about different fans. But the different podcast every time. You don't need to hear my opinions. No one cares. They just want to hear me make fun of make stupid myself. Shyvana got a change. Flame Breath fixed a bug where Flame Breath was dealing an extra 20 damage at rank 1.
Which hilarious. That's like a huge nerf to her now.
15 patches later.
Seriously, that hurts a lot of her early game power.
Oh, no, this is a huge hurt. I mean, we were already not seeing a lot of her. I don't think we'll see her.
We'll never see her again as long as the Flame Breath isn't doing the 80 damage. Like I don't know how many people realized if it was doing 60 damage, rather 60 rather than 40 early levels, but it's going to be something that you will notice if you hit somebody with it. But even if you don't, you might just start maxing W and pushing really hard with her rather than E and trading. Like she turns into a push and roam back to Season 2 meta style Shyvana.
Well, or not even E and trading. This is going to make it much harder to like CS with her Flame Breath. If you're behind and you're being zoned out, you used to kind of have a slight amount of give with, hey, you could just sit in the back, smack a minion every once in a while and pick up some extra gold with that Flame Breath. And with the damage reduction, that's going to be a bit harder to do. And it's going to give you less, slight poke against whoever you're laning against. So this is a very big change.
I mean, and she's already not picked often, and she has a terrible win rate. She's at 46%. That's awful.
She's too hard to play in solo queue. She's too hard to use properly in team fights. She's too hard to engage with. She doesn't do enough damage. She needs a team around her.
I have a lot of experience with Shyvana in solo queue this season, and I have a lot of experience getting really, really fed on Shyvana this season, and then not being able to turn a win out of it because it's awesome if you have all the money in the world on your tank from top lane, but if you can't 1v5 the enemy team and all your other lanes,
you don't bring any CC. You have no way to stop people just run away from you.
That's exactly it. You are a walking
having a 6-item Shyvana is not the same as having a 6-item Jax.
Yep,
or
that's
Maokai.
Exactly correct.
Yeah, even having a 6 like that type of thing, like right. We'll go ahead and move on to Sivir here, where this is really nice. Sivir's crossblade now accurately just deals damage when the edge of the projectile hits an opponent, and not the center of the projectile. That's a really substantial buff.
It gives her extra range.
Well, it gives us range. It allows you to throw at awkward angles and hit people. It allows you to catch a runner out of a bush from if you're near river and you're throwing it near a bush, you can actually clip somebody with the edge of the projectile and do damage to them.
Gives it extra range, gives it more of a width.
Given how big that projectile is, like it was a really annoying ability to throw. It was really annoying to throw that ability, throw that boomerang, and then like see it hit somebody but not deal the damage.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this makes it even harder to dodge too. So
yeah, well, and now they've increased the range to 1250 from 1175, so it actually matches the visual range. I think it's like one of the only abilities in the game that doesn't go longer than the visual range. It went shorter than the visual range,
way shorter.
And so these fixes don't push Sivir into. I don't think these changes push Sivir into Limelight because she's not a hyper carry. She's very much like an Ashe style support carry. But Sivir mains are going to like her. She'll be a lot more fun to play in solo queue. She'll be a lot easier to harass. And if you could build a team comp around a Sivir and you can try to win the game at 30 minutes, I think she can work. And these changes allow her to work better. But you have to be very confident in your ability to push the game out before the end game hits to continue to use her.
Yep.
So That's it. Yeah, and we said the Twist Fate. Now, the big change in this patch, in my opinion, is that Urgot changes, and that'll be the next 20 minutes of this podcast. The general, this really helps. Recommended items have been updated. Through all of this, with the recommended items no longer having to build a tier, is I don't care what the rest they did in the champion, that's going to be the biggest update in this champion. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself into 800 gold.
Yeah, that's an interesting change.
So
you skipped a few things.
I'm going to get there and talk about it.
Okay.
The basic attack missile speed is now 1600 from 1300. Acid Hunter now refunds half mana cost if Acid Hunter kills an enemy. So every time you last hit with it in lane, you gain half your mana cost back, which is really one of the big problems. If you got pushed to your turret, you needed to use Acid Hunter to last hit things.
I mean, now part of this might have been because the missile speed was so slow, but it's sort of an Ezreal syndrome there. A lot of people were using Acid Hunter to last hit anyway, just like people do with Mystic Shot, you know? Getting that mana back is now, and the range on Acid Hunter is longer than his auto attack, isn't it? Even just a little bit?
Yep.
That's why. He had to use it to farm in a lot of cases.
There's no wind up time either on that. It's instant. It's like Ezreal with Mystic Shot. It's an instant attack.
But it's not, his range is a lot shorter. It's 500 compared to every other marksman out there who's, even Vayne is, actually she's 550, isn't she?
525.
Whatever. Everybody else is way higher than there's Urgot at 500. That's why people weren't playing him there. He gets played mid and top.
Yeah. Well, no, these changes. This makes him a mid or top. This doesn't make him no longer.
It doesn't hurt him, bot.
Oh no, absolutely not. It completely helps him up. But just the changes that we talked about with Acid Hunter now refunding mana and having a basic attack missile speed increased suddenly makes him a much better mid laner because he's able to keep up with the auto attacks of the other enemy mid laners who had a more fluid auto attack animation than he did.
I actually worry about Urgot coming back into Rel. Because in Season 2, Moscow 5 loved to run Urgot and got him to ban status at one point.
That's too bad because Genja is no longer on the team.
I was going to say that
I know,
team,
but
the way we know them, is dead.
Overall, the champion was getting played a ton. And part of it's because he just has a lot of sneaky, hidden debuff power that is difficult to appreciate. But if you really... his passive reduces all damage that his target deals by 15% for 2.5 seconds. All damage, not just auto attacks. Right. So if you hit a mage before they get their combo off, 15% reduction.
And E reduces armor of the champion.
and then E's reducing armor. W is giving him a slow on top of it. He just has a lot of sneaky hidden power that is, I don't want to say easy to abuse, but it's difficult to appreciate. But it's that type of stuff that can really make a champion strong before anybody realizes it.
I think the biggest change, we haven't even talked about hyperkinetic position reverser, which is, these changes that we will talk about are really nice, but I'm still going to go back to that, if you no longer have to build tier to be able to last hit or spam your abilities because you don't need that extra mana to be able to keep up with that, that is going to be the change that pushes Urgot into relevance because now you can take that 800 gold and you can dump it into Doran's Blades early if you wanted to, or you can dump it into a Vamp Scepter, or, part of a Vamp Scepter early if you wanted to. You can dump it into so many more items that give you damage that allow you to harass more consistently than if you were to dump it in an item that you had to sit on and charge to get to more damage. And in my opinion, that really just pushes him into relevance, and we will see him at some point somewhere, either at pro or normal or solo queue or whatever it is.
He can very, very realistically build a Trinity Force. He perfectly fits in with that group. He's not going to get a Blade of the Ruin King because that's kind of that tends to be pretty wasted on him. But Youmuu's or Black Cleaver are both great on him. Because his E is dealing physical damage, so it's going to apply the Cleaver stacks.
Right.
Over time, so that's going to be a huge area of champions that are having their armor reduced further because you already have armor reduction on that ability. Yeah, Triforce Cleaver is probably the way to go on him.
Well, an early Brutalizer on him has never been a bad.
It's always the cooldown reduction it gives is great.
You had to get the tier. That was the problem.
Yep. Well, and you could still buy a tier on him if you feel like you're doing enough damage and you're being a big enough bully early, so you can spam more Acid Hunters if you want.
But you're not pigeonholed into doing it.
That's exactly all it is. You're just not pigeonholed into having to buy that item.
It was fun back in Season 2. Actually, even in Season 3 when Soul Shroud was an item. And picking that up when you were supporting Urgot to just make it so that he didn't have to buy the tier.
That was passive mana regen for anyone in lane, right?
It was a mana regen aura.
Well, let's talk about hyperkinetic position reverser. Cooldown has been decreased from it was 120 at all ranks, is now 120, 110, 100. Quality of life, nice change. Mana cost down to 100, another nice change. Just kind of needed that because of what it did. The biggest change for this is it now automatically grants bonus armor and magic resist when it's used. You don't have to wait 0.25 seconds. You use it, you engage with it, you gain all that bonus armor and magic resist.
There was nothing like using that ability and dying because of it, because you didn't have all that bonus tank stats.
And also, hyperkinetic position reverser can now walk through things. You ignore unit collision for 1 second after using it, which another quality of life buff. If you're in bottom lane or any lane, you now can walk through all the minions to continue to attack somebody for 1 second.
I was about to say, now you're not going to get creep blocked, which is either going to A, get you killed, or B, keep you from getting a kill, which is pretty big.
I was going to say, the in-game camera no longer shifts Urgot when he completes his hyperkinetic position reverser.
I didn't know it did that. Yeah,
that
awesome.
was really obnoxious. You used it, and then you were like positioning yourself, and then it just shot the camera back to him.
So hyperkinetic position reverser now more reliable on use, easier to engage with. It allows you to be more aggressive in lane. It allows you to be more aggressive during fights where there's going to be minions or creeps or whatever it is in the way. And overall, I think Urgot is going to jump back into relevance with this, and the good players are going to be better, and the players who could sort of play him before, really, I just think his win rate is going to go up a little bit over time because of these changes.
And that's fine. He has the lowest win rate in the game right now, so...
Other than that, I guess I read more of him. I was going to say, there's been item changes as well. Essence Reaver, my favorite item in this entire game. Combined cost down to 850 gold, and the total cost has been decreased by 200 gold to 3,200 gold.
I mean, it's humorous because maybe that item is good for Urgot, and we were just talking about him, but even then...
I think it is. Actually, I think that item is... It's a nice pickup for Urgot because that mana... you can always use extra mana.
I mean, the cooldown reduction is the big deal for him, though.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, you synergize off every piece of that. Like, he's one of the few champions in the game that synergizes that for every
It gets a huge bonus out of it, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't auto-attack so much that it's a huge bonus on the mana thing, and then the life steal as a result, because he doesn't auto-attack. He casts more spells than he auto-attacks.
I thought Q applied on hit effects.
I don't think so. We could check that, but I don't think so. I know it doesn't apply Sheen.
Yeah. I mean, it's still not a great item. No one's going to really buy it. Urgot could potentially buy it, but I think he's going to go Brutalizer first.
I like the top Ezreal players in Korea buying that item on him.
On Essence Reaver? Or Essence Reaver?
Yeah. That's what I heard that recently. I don't know if it's true, but that was
it you
something
that wanted me to do Red Ezreal?
I wanted you to do Red Lightning Ezreal.
Red Lightning. That's right. No, I went for Tank Destroyer Ezreal, and it didn't work out too well for us.
No, Ezreal was the wrong champion to play into that comp.
There wasn't really a good AD carry, let's be honest here. They had 7 ways to Sunday to jump on me. So
you should have played Vayne, and you should have taken Cleanse. But hindsight's 2020.
Just played Corki and sat back and shot missiles at people.
Sadly, my Vayne is good enough that I probably could have gotten away with playing Vayne. It's silly.
Play Vayne, take Cleanse. That's how you beat the full tank comp.
Twin Shadows bug update, fix a bug where Spooky Ghosts from Twin Shadows would sometimes not path correctly into bushes to tag enemies. Iceborne Gauntlet. Fix a bug where if you had Iceborne Gauntlet and Trinity Force, for whatever reason, you deal 150% of your base AD instead of the expected 200%. So if you're rich enough to own 2 Sheen items, you now do more damage. Congratulations, you've already won the game. Now you win it harder.
Well, it's more if you're foolish enough to own 2 Sheen items because they don't stack.
Yeah, right. Other than that, there's Twisted Treeline changes. Well, we don't talk about Twisted Treeline too much, which, humorously enough, they are changing the biggest item that I love and adore and everything on this and there. I think the first time we ever played Twisted Treeline... It's about time they've changed it. Every time we have played Twisted Treeline, I said, ooh, Ichor Illumination. Ooh, I got 10 or 15% extra cooldown. I now have 20% cooldown reduction at like level 3.
It's the first thing you buy every time you play Lysandra.
Actually, they're making a big change just by having the amount of bonus passive mana regen you get.
Oh, right. From 1.5% to 0.7%.
Of missing mana to 0.7. Yeah, it's that's a big change.
Yeah. I would probably notice it on Lysandra, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, you'll notice that on a lot of champions.
But that might shift. We've been kind of, so you guys know, the reason we're kind of talking about this is we've been dabbling in Twisted Tree Line. We're going to try to get to gold this season in Twisted Tree Line. We're silver 1 at the moment. We just actually placed in it last night.
I like how you're like, we've been dabbling when we've played one day.
Well, we played one other day or 2 other days beyond that. So we've been dabbling.
All right.
Am I wrong?
We played one day in like the past 3 months.
we have played 3 times total this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 times.
3 days. 3 days, I should say.
3 days.
days.
What did we go last night?
4-0.
4-0.
Okay.
Because my Lysandra is beast mode.
We went 4-0 last night. We went, I think, 3-0 last time we played, and then you and I went 2-1 with the Claude.
Okay.
Right, and I think it's just funny some of these changes are coming through because I always talk about how you should pick up Ichor of Illumination. Then somebody said, "Oh, dear God, no matter what you do, ban Cassiopeia if you don't play her because she's just like through the roof crazy." And here comes the Cassiopeia nerfs in patch 4.15.
Yep. Just nerfs to our miasma.
And you know, it's funny because they've got some other Twisted Tree Line changes in here that I'm going to just kind of pick on with Jarvan with his martial cadence having a cooldown increase and his Dragon Strike having armor shred now decrease. I always thought that Jarvan was really, really good, and I've really wanted Dom to pick up Jarvan and start playing him out of the top lane, for example, but I know he's not like your type of champion. Just like I really like Jarvan in Twisted Tree Line. He just does a ton of damage right now. But now not anymore. Now he's.
I suppose I could learn. No, Jarvan's always been really good, and I mean part of it just comes from being able to block an entire area with his ult. I mean, because the jungle is so much smaller, the lanes are smaller. Like you can literally just block people out; they can't get around it. And
I've liked Jarvan in Summoner's Rift as a mid laner for quite a while. I carried a lot of people in silver with Jarvan because of his passive doing so much.
There are so many people who don't know how to trade against him, especially at lower ranks. I knew people who would carry straight up as Jarvan.
Stupid amounts of damage. He deals stupid amounts of damage without building any items.
Oh yeah, he's like every other top laner that does that. You build 1 damage item and then just go straight tank, and now you're doing percentage of life damage, just chunking fools.
Like he's the definitive season 1 bruiser. Like he is the poster child for season 1 bruiser problems.
Heart of Gold.
They just threw so much stupid power into his kid in so many different ways. Because at that point in time, it was so difficult for melee champions to succeed at all. Jarvan.
Well, I told you guys this would probably be a little bit of a shorter episode, and that is patch 4.15. We finally got to talk about a patch after a couple of weeks of listener questions. So that you all know, I've been amassing your listener questions over the past 3 weeks, and we reached the end of the mailbag on episode 189, episode 191. We're back to the mailbag because you ever seen Santa's sack on Christmas Day? That's what our mailbag looks like right now. It's just overflowing.
It's just
with
bursting.
Questions. Yeah, wonderful. I can't sew it up quickly enough and patch it up quickly enough because you're sending so many questions. But keep sending them. We love it. We absolutely love it. Send them.
This is not complaints.
No. I'm so excited that you guys have sent us so many, and you love our opinion and love the show so much. If you guys really do love the show as much as you email us and say you do, continue to do that, but also go rate us on iTunes and Stitcher. We need those rates because they help us to continue to climb the ranks, help us get more listeners, help us to help you guys, with more. It's really like our fuel. It's the money. Like none of us are making money off the show, so we need some kind of fuel. And the fuel, besides beer, is positivity. So the more positivity you give us.
Adam also needs it for his ego because it can't get big enough.
Hey, can I ask one favor for anybody who's rating us on iTunes? If you have an issue with the podcast, don't put it on iTunes and rate. Like, if you legitimately think we're worth 3 stars and you have a reason why, that's great. Put it on iTunes and say it. But if you have, like, a complaint, like, these guys talk for 30 minutes about stupid shit, like, email us and tell us, and we'll talk about it first and foremost. Because I want to hear the complaints. I just don't think iTunes is the correct platform to complain about it,
especially when it's so easy to email us.
Right.
It's not a place to. There's no guarantee you're going to get that feedback from iTunes.
Exactly. It's not that. I mean, like I said, if you think we're only worth 2 stars, rate us 2 stars and tell us why on there. That's fine. But I would rather you guys email us first and talk to us, but I get it. I understand how much easier platforms work. But go rate us iTunes. You can go find us on there. We're on Stitcher. We're on Radio. If we're not on the platform of choice, email us feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. We will take care of you and get it out there.
I'm not here on Monday.
Dom is not here on Monday.
Might not be here Wednesday. That sort of depends on Comcast.
So September 1 and 3rd. At least you'll be here for the 8th, right?
Yes.
All right, you're here for the very first Days Untold episode. All right, so next week, guys, we'll try to have a special guest on. I'm going to try to get Moobied on next week.
I would love that. I love that
No,
bearded
it's PAX
bastard.
weekend.
He's
He's
awesome.
gonna be there.
Oh, you're right.
Oh.
Fuck. Okay,
Live
guys.
from
Well, that's
PAX.
episode
I'm kidding.
190 of the Trinity Force podcast. We've kind of ranted a little bit too much here at the end. I will see you next week. Peace.
Bye.